So I'd like to invite all the speakers to come on stage to the podium. James, Punacha, Sesh. I know the audience is dying to ask questions of all of you. So we'd like to now open it up for questions. Do we have a mic that we can pass around the audience? A couple mics?
We can do this. Pass it around.
Questions? First question. Who wants to ask the first question? Mike.
Yeah, hi, my name is Sujata. I just had one question. We talk about collection of data and we are trying to provide solutions of what might be the disease, etc. But with the population of India, for example, how do we do data cleansing in the first place? We have so many number of people and every time, how do we find out that this person had this disease or he's allergic to something? So this is my question. So my question is for Sesh or somebody who's working on the data side of the house.
Right. So I think there are two problems that you allude to. One is how easy is it to collect data and what are the mechanisms we have to collect data. And second is how clean is the data that you collect and how do you sort of clean it. So on the collection part, I'll defer to others if there are things. But clearly, hopefully the internet, the mobile, the sensor network that we're all wearing, wearable devices are all going to make it easier and easier. But at the end of the day, yes, data needs to be collected. And once it's collected, you're right, there is likelihood of a lot of noise in the data. And somebody has to extract the signal from the noise, so to speak, or clean the data. That's again a classical problem. It's not unsolvable. I think the collection problem is more fundamental. I'm not so much into regulatory and hospitals, and so I don't know whether there are other ideas which will help with the collection.
I'll just give an idea, but just a thought process, right? So there is a professor called David Larry, who's in the University of Texas, Austin, Dallas. He, over the last 20 years, has mapped what we call particulate matter, allergens in the atmosphere. He's called the atmosphere scientist across the globe. And today, actually, if you look at it, if all I can do, my son has asthma, if I can say, looking at the weather data, just querying a weather database, that the UV index is so-and-so, the allergen count is so-and-so, you know what, probably today is not a good day to go play outside. That's a start. So there are tons of databases out there. I don't think we can start there. It doesn't always have to be at the individual device level. But check this guy out, he's done some amazing work.
On paper. And so how can we incrementally, we can talk about all these technologies, but how can we get doctors to use something that's, they write on paper, which cannot read. Punacha, your handwriting was much better than any doctor I've seen. But you cannot read that. So how can we get doctors to do that? There's technologies out there that are 1,000 ways to get the data, and it is the most important part.
Just to add to that, peek into an entrepreneur's mind, right? So, whenever somebody tells me there's a problem, that's also an opportunity. So I think, to me, if that's a problem, and I know it's a problem, I think there's a beautiful opportunity to create a company there. It doesn't have to be very sort of deep, right? Just figure out a way to make it easier for doctors to collect data. Make it easier and easier. And you don't have to create huge value in terms of, all that we talked about today. Just having the data online is probably a very valuable company. And so I think in your question lies a company. Indeed, right? Wonderful.
Sorry, I just want to add to what James said. We had this opportunity to meet the Karnataka State Health Commission, which doesn't exist today, but yeah, but it was very interesting because they were very open to using technologies like SMS and simple Excels which could be uploaded if they had a basic system or anything. They were perfectly okay to actually push primary, tertiary, and those kind of hospitals to actually start sending data back into a system. So I think that willingness is there. It's about pushing in and doing it.
Lately, I've heard and I've seen that doctors are more and more receptive towards using tablets and apps to do a lot of these things. One of the examples is in Bangalore and other places, there's a clinic called Nationwide, which is a GP chain of general practitioners. And that is completely, they do everything electronic. So it might start slow, but I think it'll pick up speed very soon.
So I would like your views on the following. So after the first stage that we have got all of the data and it is cleansed, now there is this problem of correlation not being causation, and especially if it falls in the realm of unknown unknowns. So how do we know that what we are seeing is actually is actually the right thing? And like the basics, what comes into picture is validation. So even if we are having the data and we are running all our algorithms on it and we get some output, and if it falls in the realm of unknown unknowns, so how do we go about that?
Usually the answer is you should be able to form a theory, right? So what I mean is you should be able to explain it. So let me give an example. Let's say something comes back and says, I'm trying to come up with an example that might sort of appeal to the audience, right? But essentially what we are trying to say is you're right. There are correlations in the data, or there are unknown unknowns that let's say your favorite data mining algorithm discovers. You will need to validate it with your human expert in the area, right? So if somebody is not able to say or correlate, let's say, a particular gene being present in somebody's DNA with a particular protein, there is no pathway that connects them, then unlikely this correlation is meaningful, right? So you got to be able, there has to be a model that explains why this correlation is possibly interesting. So here's an example I can give you. So I was thinking of an example that will appeal to everybody. So let me give a concrete example. Again, going back to search, I guess that's what I know. So let's say there are you found results, 2 results, both of which seem to have 100 anchors pointing to them, right? Anchors is a very important way of determining whether something is useful or not for a result, okay? But you found out that one is better than the other in terms of the result. Then when you dug deeper, you found out that 100 anchors were coming from 100 different domains, one from CNN, one from, let's say, New York Times, one from something else. Whereas here, all 100 came from from one site. So then you make the aha moment connection. So you say, what? Yeah, I know what's happening. If all 100 come from the same domain, it's not a valuable signal. But if all 100 come from very different domains, that's a valuable signal because these are independent votes in some sense. All of these are, correlated votes. And so you might come up, then you saw the data, you came up with that aha, and that aha appeals to your human, yeah, I can see spam. This is the reason why this model is wrong and why 100 different things are good. And then you convince yourself. So short answer is, as a human, it has to make sense to you. So big data is awesome, but I'm very nervous. Don't ask me, I worked in big data for 25 years now, but I'm very nervous about trusting a black box completely. So you have to be able to explain the models that come out of these black boxes. So I think that's very important and that's very key. And it's a good question. I'm saying, as a human, you have to be able to explain. You have to be, like I just said, why 100 different anchors from 100 different domains are better. So you've got to be able to satisfy yourself that there is a good explanation.
The only thing is, to my experience, I've worked on one project. I'd like to share my experience. It was just like that was my first project on the healthcare. Somebody from the US had worked on that. He had an experience. That was a portal they were launching on the pharmacy, and he told me that you need to do the promotions for it. So it was just my start. And what I noticed is that all the technical people are good at creating softwares first and then going to the market, especially the entrepreneurial one, and then trying to figure out what is it. But we had a huge promotion, and there was a kind of emergency care, that is 101, 108, I think everybody is aware about it. The model was fantastic. He had created something where you can give your name, data, and the kind of problems you have on the, like heart care or for the elder senior people, and to take care about your parents. And then it was in the card format, and we all had the sign-ups and all that. But he exactly failed in addressing the core issue. That was, that is why, it's easy to make data, have data, everything. But ultimately, execution, management, and so many things are involved. I, as an entrepreneur, would like to, I know we have different competences, but I want a platform which, constantly integrates, where a doctor and a patient, and as well as a common public with governance, to incubate these ideas and work on the testing models so that we can enter into this, because everybody comes from global experience, but India is different. I think Mr. James really addressed the basic problems. So we don't know from where to start and how to execute. So if you can give us some solutions about it, it'll be great.
Platforms where you can go to, I think most of them are unknown. Open systems for innovation. And Srikanth, to your question, I'll give you the name of an author in a book. Atul Gawande wrote a book called Checklist Manifesto. Whenever we establish standardized processes in healthcare, that's when we can get rid of some of the danger of the anomalies. But I'll talk to you both afterwards, because the answer is very long and complicated, and quite honestly, there is not an answer. I'm going to hand you a hodgepodge of stuff. You'll have to discover which one fits you.
I'm going to add to this and answer Vinita's question a bit belatedly, because I think the two questions are sort of related. I think at some point, I think your point was that essentially how do you understand the need, the market need? I mean, so that's, or more succinctly, you said, look, people build things and then figure out whether there is a need, right? So I think that's, to me, building a successful company is about identifying the need first, identifying the pain point first. And that's why I love the question that she asked, which said, look, data collection is the problem. So start from the problem. Don't start from the solution. So you have to identify however small the problem is, right? I think your question is, maybe you've identified the problem, then you don't know how to proceed. And I think that's where James, I'm sure there are lots of forums that will help you sort of decide how to proceed. But fundamentally, you have to feel the pain. As an entrepreneur, if you don't feel the pain, then there isn't anything to be solved. After that, the rest are mechanics, but first you have to feel the pain in your bones, right? So that's it.
Yeah, simple thing. Walk into a hospital, talk to the management, ask them what problem they can solve to build upon that. Just do it. His answer is exactly. There's too many healthcare organizations here. You drive by them every day. Walk in there and ask them what problems are they facing every day. Just start there. Don't wait for anybody else. It's right here. It's right down the street. Just do it. Just go in there and ask. And then talk to me later also.
Hi everyone, Harsha here. Thank you. The healthcare and the big data would solve a lot of problems. My question is more towards the behavioral part. There is a lot of data as of now existing, but unfortunately the behavioral changes which need to happen with the data which has already come into doesn't happen. I'll give you two examples. We know smoking is injurious to health, and till very recently 50% or 90% of the doctors used to smoke. And today maybe a large population which is sitting here may be smokers. So data is there speaking to us, but the effectiveness is not there. Doctors need to do their hand wash, and the data has proven that doing that will reduce the infection rate in the hospital. But changing that behavior is difficult. So my question is, can we force big data to speak to the behavioral changes which are required? Thank you.
I'll just take a quick stab at it. There's actually a very interesting white paper. Look at Professor Fogg from Stanford University. He talks about behavior is equal to motivation, ability, and trigger at an instance of time. So if you want any behavioral change, you need to figure out the motivation, what is the ability, and can you trigger it, right? So I think there are scientific methods and I think ability for her to kind of use data, create tiny habits. And when you really look at it, a very quick use case, I forget the case, when people want to brush their teeth in 1930s, there was a huge problem. Nobody wanted to brush their teeth. So what they found out was that they said, what do you want to do? They need a feedback loop, right? Brush your teeth, it'll make you have good teeth. Fine. What they did was create a craving. In the Pepsodent, which is the guys who made toothpaste, they put mint. So the mint gave you the feeling that actually your teeth is feeling clean. So it kind of created this feedback loop. You brushed your teeth because you wanted a minty feeling. So when you look at even smoking, you look at any behavioral change, you gotta look at the feedback loop cycle. Well-known, documented theories out there, and I can share some links for you all after this. But you're absolutely right. Data without behavior doesn't mean a whole lot.
One thing to add to that, don't underestimate what I said before also, is if Sachin Tendulkar said to wash your hands, there'd be 1 billion people washing their hands. You know, sport, there are mediums outside of healthcare, whether it's religion, film, music, sport, and that's what we've been doing the last 18 months. We've written songs, we've produced films, we are working with the NBA, so the short answer is look outside of healthcare or look outside of that domain, see where people are already at, meet them there. Using those mediums is a undiscovered and untapped way to communicate healthcare messages, especially if data says that hand washing will prevent 80% of illness among people today. If you have a lecture like this and say, here, everybody, here's how you wash your hands, who's going to come? You know, but we produced a film in Delhi with slum kids. And I'll send you guys a link to that if you guys will write me, or I'll send it to somebody here. You should watch the movie, Mad About Khan. Produced by the slum kids, it changed everything. So look outside of your normal learning. I said earlier, in a network society, we have to figure out how we learn in a network society because we're still learning in a brick and mortar, real world, physical world society.
And just to add to that, I think a lot of it has to do with community and about your peer network as well. So to your example about smoking, India and China are different, but if you go out to California or even New York now, smoking is really frowned upon just through a peer network. And I've seen, and having spent time in New York, I've seen how much of it has been cut down on the streets and cut down among, a certain crowd just because of that social pressure. And I think there is a big wave now, even with enterprises that are trying to gamify keeping fit and trying to inculcate, team competitions and so on and so forth, where you're motivated to compete with your peers on, how many steps you walk a day or how many, grams that you lose in a month and so on and so forth. So I think we can all kind of push the frontier and slowly get there one step at a time, but it has to do with the community as well.
I think once seeded the behavioral change, today's platform, social networking and all those kind of things can really accelerate that very quickly. The smoking thing in the US, it took a while for people to feel the social pressure, but I think today things might go faster.
So thanks everyone. I just wanted to give a big hand of a big applause to our speakers. I think I really enjoyed our discussion this evening, and as promised, I think we definitely, I'm definitely leaving with some really new thoughts and some great thoughts today, especially around this space. So thank you, and thank you EMC for, what's that?
One more final question.
Okay, can we take this offline because I'm doing my thank yous now.
I don't think so, but I want to clarify.
So let me finish my thank
yous. It's very important to understand that. Okay.
All right, let me finish my thank yous and then I'll let you do it. All right? Sorry. I'm receiving the Oscar here, right? You're not going to pull the plug on me right now.
Time clock.
Yeah, there we go. No, and I'll let you get to your question, but really thank you, Niranjan and EMC for letting us work together for this. I think it was really terrific, and we plan on, and we hope to do a lot more of these sessions. There's dinner that's served outside, so please join us. And before we get to the thank you gift for the speaker and Uresh, if you could please come up and help us with that, go ahead and have your question.
Yeah. We are just we need to collect the data, okay? And what type of data we are collecting, okay? We need to collect the right data, and we should draw the best solutions out of the right data, okay? How do we ensure that are we collecting the right data from the devices or whatever it is, okay? So how do we, I mean, we are collecting the data, whether it is true or it's a valid data or invalid data. How do we determine that?
It seems very domain specific, right? So, I mean, only you as the expert in the domain are going to be able to, I don't know whether there are any sort of universal ways, but anybody, that's why I said you have to feel the pain. I mean, if you understand what problem you're solving, I think the rest will fall in place. Otherwise, like I said, you have all these atom positions in the cloud and you're trying to predict the weather. So that's not going to work. So you really need to know what problem you're solving. I think then it will become apparent what to collect, and if there is something wrong with the data, it will become apparent. But fundamentally, put the problem first, be a product guy, think about this solution, think about your customer, think about the pain you're solving. And I'm saying, at that point, it has to be apparent whether the data you have collected is right or wrong, because you know what the problem is. That's all I can say. I mean, I'm just saying, if you know what your problem is, you know what data you need to collect.
Thank you, Sesh.
Yeah.